Hey everyone, Ryan from Ebike Escape. In my last video, I went a little bit deeper on the Ride1Up Limited. I talked about some of the changes that are coming to the bike, as well as shared some riding footage. Just for some context, I received one of 70 or so of the first generation Ride1Up Limiteds, and they're already implementing improvements to the bike. So that will be for people who have purchased the bike but haven't received it, or for people looking to purchase this electric bike in the future. So if you're curious what those changes are, you can watch the last video. But this video is focused on the controller updates. So I received the new controller yesterday with some of the software updates, and I got it put in. And today I just got back from a test ride, and I have to say, the change is significant, so I hope that shows up on camera. And I'll also share just how I swapped out the controller, just if you're curious. If you're looking to purchase a Ride1Up Limited or any of the other electric bikes offered by Ride1Up, please consider using the link in the description, as that helps my channel out. Let's get to me swapping out the controller, followed by the riding footage, so you can see just how this torque sensor works on the Ride1Up Limited. So this isn't meant to be a tutorial, but I just wanted to show it. It actually was a fun project. It was the first time that I've replaced a controller on an electric bike, and it was just really cool to see how all the different components come together in the controller. Basically, on the Ride1Up, both the Core 5 as well as the Limited, there's 4 screws at the top and 1 screw at the bottom that removes the housing. Simply unplug that, and then you can remove the controller, which is tucked up nicely. Once you have the controller out, it's just a matter of unplugging everything and plugging it back into the same connection for the new controller. The 2 tricky connections, the smaller wires, I actually pulled out of the frame of the down tube there and then connected them and then pushed them back into the frame. The other tricky thing is just with the lock. I recommend, if you do happen to do this, that it's actually good to test out to make sure the locking mechanism works before all the screws are back in place. I had to redo it a couple times just to make sure that the battery was going to seat properly. Lastly, I was able to test out the battery and make sure the bike turned on before all the screws were in place, just to make sure all the connections were secure.
Alrighty, so I've only been riding with the new software just down the road, so this is my really my first full test, and I hope you can tell from the video that it doesn't surge nearly as much. And to be honest, this might change my thoughts on a torque sensor. And I'm just running a quick errand to actually get some pickling supplies for my wife from our local Ace Hardware, and then I will take this up a really big hill and I'll put all the pedal assist settings to the test with the torque sensor. But already it just feels so much more smooth. It's really crazy, the difference. So it makes you think about all the things that go into these bikes and the controllers. And I don't know a whole lot about controllers, but what I have kind of heard is, you know, the brains of the bike is really the controller. A lot of people, I think, assume it's the display, but that's actually not the case. So one of the things that I had noted with the old software was that when the torque sensor kicked in, if I only had one arm, I had one arm on the handlebars. I had to be really careful Nice guy getting out of the sidewalk. And so like the surging feeling was pretty significant. And I thought maybe that was more due to just how powerful the motor is. But obviously the torque sensor, the software, can make just a world of difference. I mean, to be honest, I can barely feel like the assist kick in because it seems so subtle. At least right now I'm on pedal assist 3 and I'm pedaling a good bit, but it's a much more subtle feeling than it was before. So good on Ride1Up for continuing to improve their bikes. It's really great. The other thing I noticed even yesterday when I was riding is the motor seems to stay on just a little bit longer than it did before, which is nice because then you're not constant, like the motor's not just kicking on and off a bunch of times, especially if you know, want it to be on if you're riding. So it helps you keep a little more consistent speed. Unfortunately, this area is just not ideal for bikes, so sidewalk it is. Again, if you're curious about, if you have any other questions, I answered a bunch of them in the last video, but if you have any other questions, you know what, I might just go on the road here. All right, here we go. Let's see how fast we can get going. So I didn't talk about this in my last video, but what's super fun about a Class 3 electric bike, and one that's so much more powerful, is it's so much easier to keep up with traffic. And when you're going faster, you don't see as many cars, they're not passing you as frequently, so that's really fun for city riding and safer. And this is a perfect example of that, because there's cars behind me, but they're not catching me really fast. This entire road to myself, which is pretty rare. And here we are, almost at our destination. Way better than driving a car. Okay, so I'm going to stop here and then we'll get back to you when I go up the hill. Okay, so this is pedal assist 1. And I'm working still a decent amount, and I'm at 15 miles an hour, 8th gear. Let's go 2. Slightly easier. It is really windy though. 3. 4. it is sprinkling a little bit. So I'm going to try to see if I can get to that spot. Or get near where I was the other day. Okay, so if you remember from my last video, this is the same way I took. I'm going to try lower gear. I know for a lot of people, it's completely different. Like, we normally go really high gear, but here it is in 6 still, and I'm in pedal assist 1, still going 16, 2, 3, 4, right about here is when I would shift up, and it's getting a little too easy. But let's go up this hill. Pedaling pretty hard, I would say. So it's probably going to be hard to tell, but the motor still is engaged pretty long after I stopped pedaling, which is nice. It's a significant difference from the last one, the last software on the controller, because very often it would kick off and I'm still trying to pedal hard. Normally on a flat surface, not as much on a hill, but okay, so there's a gigantic hill to the right. I'm going to try to get a picture of it, and this is going to be a good hill test. And I know my battery's not full. I used it yesterday a little bit. Going to the farmer's market. Okay, I think I'm gonna, maybe when I get to the hill, I'm gonna throttle only and see where the motor really stops helping me. That might be most interesting for people. This hill, I don't know if there's many bigger hills in our city except for maybe our ski hill. We'll see how we do here. I'll be very curious. Still going strong. And unfortunately, it's raining. 18. Still going. This is a bit surprised. It says it's at 830 watts, 14 miles per hour. I know with the GoPro it's going to be hard to tell just how significant of a hill this is. But trust me, it is holding me at 14 miles per hour up this crazy big hill. So I think this motor would be able to get anyone up this hill. Crazy. 14.5 miles per hour. I'm sure the motor isn't too happy about this. So that was probably what, a good minute or so uphill? Just full throttle, no pedaling. Crazy. Just crazy. Still not even at the top of it yet. Alright, we're calling that good. So there's someone in the comment section who was considering this bike or the Dost Cope, I believe. The Dost is an interesting company, relatively new company, and they just started shipping their first bikes this summer. I've spoken with the CEO, and he has a bunch of experience with electric bikes at various companies. And so this person, anyway, this person was considering a mid-drive, and because they had a 2,000 foot elevation gain, I think. And I kind of said, you know, you really might want to go with the mid-drive. But that test right there just makes me a little bit reconsider. I guess it depends how steep it is for how long. But I don't know. I've never ridden a mid-drive. I personally really like the simplicity of the rear hub motors. Of course, the pricing is just so much better. I'm sure like the mid-drives are great, and I really want to try one soon. But it's a lot of cost. I think Dost, from what I've seen, they have they're pretty good priced compared to a lot of the other options. At least I haven't seen too many bikes at the 2,800 or so price point with some of the specs that they have. They have dual batteries, which is kind of neat. So I don't know. I don't pay as much attention to mid-drives because I'm very much a person that when I shop I like to get the most value. So I mean that's why we ended up with Red Power Bikes. That's what attracted me to Ride1Up, and there's other brands, of course. Hopefully we'll be reviewing some more bikes here in the next few months. I think it's the wind's died down, so hopefully you can hear the motor. Maybe I should stop pedaling and you can hear when it kicks on, and if I stop. So that's what I'm talking about. It's so much better as far as when the torque sensor kicks on. It's much lighter, more subtle, and then when I stop pedaling it stays on, which is nice. So then I'm not constantly feeling the surging. So they definitely made a lot of changes to the software. So like I said, in my last video, if you're ordering a limited or you have it on order, this is the controller and software that you will have. The only thing that will be different is that on your bike you'll be able to pedal and then hit the throttle, and as long as you're pedaling, as long as the torque sensor senses you're pedaling, you can hit 28 miles per hour, which is pretty dang cool. So that's going to be really nice. I think that's kind of like a pedal assist, is pretty much like a cadence sensor type is how that's going to work. Of course, now it's stopped raining, but I hope that helps Hope you can hear the motor a little bit. I think if there's some people who were potentially having concerns about this bike, but as Kevin said in my interview, they're just going to continually make changes to the bikes, and I think that's a good model to go by. Probably keeps the price down as well. Do an initial batch, figure out the tweaks, just make it better, and not have, for instance, yearly releases. I guess maybe I could try to see if it goes any faster. I don't think it does though. I think I was topping out at about 29, as it was last time. 28. Wind might be a little heavier last time, and my battery is less than half full, so there you go. Thanks everyone for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so. If you're purchasing a Ride1Up bike, please consider using the link in the description. I also have links to my electric bike accessories list, as well as my electric bike deals page, where I track deals of the brands that I really like in the e-bike space. So hopefully these videos were helpful. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.